Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video comparing the new Toyota Tacoma to the new Ford Ranger to see which midsize pickup truck is best. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Brent Brown Toyota in Orem for giving me the Tacoma, and the Larry Miller Ford here in Provo for giving me some time with the Ranger. I'll include a link to both their websites in the description down below so you can check what they have. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Powering the Ranger is a turbocharged 2.3 liter 4-cylinder that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 20 around town and then 24 on the highway, with power outputs being 270 horsepower and then 310 pound-feet of torque. Now powering the Tacoma is a turbocharged 2.4 liter 4-cylinder that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 19 around town and then 24 on the highway, with power outputs being 278 horsepower and then 317 pound-feet of torque. Now, before we move forward with this comparison, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Starting off with the Ranger, this is the XLT with the FX4 package. So think of it as like your middle line interior with off-road goodies. So that's why we've got this big, beefy kind of skid plate up front. I mean, look at that. It's pretty crazy looking with the tow hooks, fog lights, all of that. But yeah, it definitely has that kind of rugged off-roader look. Kind of looks like an SUV from the front. The Tacoma is the SR5 package. Before you see complaints in the comment section below, this Tacoma is actually more expensive than that Ranger. We'll get into that in a little bit later. But with the SR5, you still have fog lights. You've got recovery points there at the front. But notice we got a big old air dam. So less about off-roading, more about on-road. But there's the fronts. Tire and wheel setup is 255 by 70 by 17 in the front and in the rear with the Ranger. You can see with the wheels, metallic gray, I think that looks pretty sharp. All-terrain tires. You got this, it's gray, it's pretty cool. XLT on the side, and you can see with the fixed side step there. And then FX4 off-road in the back. We've got the leaf springs here in the rear, too. Got the little bedside step. And then the Ranger has like a traditional mid-size pickup truck look. So you can see how it's not super wide, but it's got the fender flares and it's more upright looking. Now at the Tacoma, 245 by 70 by 17 in the front and in the rear is the tire and wheel setup. You see silver for the wheel coloration. And then I think this is pretty cool in the new Tacoma, how it's like giant with the, it's not a fender flare, but how the fender pops out like a fender flare. Now the Ranger, traditional leaf springs in the back. The Tacoma, however, has coil suspension. You can't really see it, but it does have coil suspension, so quite a bit different in the mid-size pickup truck segment. But here's your full side view. The new Tacoma has that kind of like wide-bodied truck look that, you know, is similar to a Colorado, for example. Now popping to the bed of the Tacoma, protection from the factory, also a dampened tailgate, LED lights in the bed as well. So definitely a nice setup. You don't really have to change anything if you bought this off the dealership showroom floor. Easy to lift up. Popping over to the Ranger, tailgate's dampened, which is nice. No protection, but we do have outlets in the back of the Ranger, a couple of them. Good bed space. And then with this tailgate, just as easy to lift up as the Tacoma. And then notice the bumper is different in coloration, whereas the Tacoma, it's paint matched with that. And yeah, both of them have exhaust tips. They're both sticking out towards each other, funny enough, but they're big. But anyways, with the Ranger versus the Tacoma, again, the Ranger has that upright look, whereas the Tacoma kind of has that wider track look. It's interesting, the difference with them, especially the taillight difference. Look at the Tacomas versus the Rangers. But regardless, let me know which one you like best. Now in the back of the Tacoma, pretty normal for a mid-size pickup truck with the foot space and then the knee space as well, similar to the Colorado, for example. Got some cup holders here. You can see down below with the little charging port. Again, SR5 is going to be more basic with the door panel trim. And you can see here with the seats, cloth seats in the SR5, kind of expected. And then headroom, it's pretty good. Now taking a look at the space here in the Ranger, definitely more foot space. Knees are not pushed up as high as the Tacoma. Got nice trim in the door panel, so that's cool. Cloth seats though, like the Tacoma. And then headroom, it's a little bit less than the Tacoma, but still good. And starting her up. Ooh. So the Tacoma actually does have soft touch here for the front in the SR5, blind spot ring with the mirrors, 1,200 pounds of payload, manual with the seat adjustment. And then you can see with the steering wheel, soft touch, perforated. It's pretty nice looking and feeling. Got stuff like adaptive cruise control here in the front, controls for the center screen as well. Trailer brake controls too. But here's that center gauge cluster. I think that looks pretty cool. I've seen some people say the graphics aren't good enough, but I don't know, looks fine to me. And then as for the infotainment system, first off, just a regular backup camera, but it's in this kind of like demo mode, so pretty easy to use. Got a little shortcut bar there on the side, volume control too. Some vents down below. Analog controls for the climate, heated seats, heated steering wheel. Got our wireless phone charging pad. Shifter for the 8-speed. Traditional 2-speed transfer case. We have a tow haul mode and ECT power. It's a Toyota thing. Got some cup holders there, some more storage. Nice trim on the top. It says Tacoma. You can see the storage there, and then more inside the glove box. Still does the glove box thing, funny enough. And then we do have a power sliding rear window. And the Tacoma stickers for $46,589. Let's pop over into the Ranger. And with the Ranger, you do have to stick the key in the ignition. And pretty cool startup there. Soft touch, blind spot monitoring, quite a bit more payload, 1,567, and then power adjustments with the seats. Solid sound there with the door. Steering wheel pretty similar with the controls, like adaptive cruise control, all of that. Similar setup with the gauge cluster where it's mostly digital there in the center. Now it's not similar as the camera system, so 360 in the Ranger. Resolution's pretty similar, but definitely more camera view. And then the Ranger has this cool off-road camera too. It also has a rear locking differential. That Tacoma, you can get it in the Tacoma, but that version does not have that. And then you can see down below, we've got our dual zone climate, heated seats, got more climate controls there. It's the same stuff, but got wireless phone charging pad, shifter for that 10-speed, parking brake here, some cup holders. You can see for some of the off-road stuff, and then stability control. Traditional 2-speed transfer case, just like the Tacoma. Center console, nice trim on the top. Storage above the glove box, and then pretty big glove box. And we do have a power sliding rear window. And then sticker price on this is $45,795, so it's less money than that Tacoma. So with that being said, let's take them out, drive them, and see which one is the best. Well, let's talk about visibility here in the Tacoma. Over the hood, both the mirrors do a blind spot ring. And the rest of the rear. Let us set off in the 2024 Toyota Tacoma with their new turbocharged engine. It's a very interesting setup. It's like Toyota kind of copied Ford, kind of. And what I mean by that is Ford has a 2.3, this is a 2.4. Now Ford has a 10-speed, this is an 8-speed, it's a little bit different there. But then this has 278 horsepower, the Ford has 270. This has 317 pound-feet of torque, the Ford has 310. It's like they were just like, okay, we're gonna do the same thing that Ford does, but have a slightly bigger engine, you know, with displacement, and then have slightly more power. And I'm wondering if they did that because Ford's 2.3 is, you know, as a turbocharged engine in a mid-size pickup truck has been shown to be pretty dang reliable overall. So I'm curious on that. But we'll get our acceleration here with the Tacoma. Nice grunt. It's pretty quick. Now, this feels like it develops the torque pretty early on in the RPM range. It just has, it's got punch right off the bat. It's, you know, even though it's a 4-cylinder, it's a beefy 4-cylinder. Like for example, the Chevy Colorado's got 430 pound-feet of torque, quite a bit more than this, but this somehow doesn't feel too out of place next to that powertrain with torque, just because it develops it at such a low RPM range. And so yeah, that's the new Tacoma, the turbocharged Tacoma. It's It's an interesting drive. And then, by the way, the coil suspension, this truck stays more planted, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's any more comfortable than any of the other mid-size pickup trucks. It just kind of has a more planted feel on the ground. So yeah, that's the Tacoma. Let's talk about visibility here. Over the hood, both mirrors, do a blind spot ring throughout the rear. And let us set off in the Ranger, comparing it to the Toyota Tacoma back to back. So what I'll say right off the bat is very similar power outputs, right? 270 versus 278, 310 versus 317. The first thing I'm noticing though is the Tacoma, it feels like it's got more low-end torque. The torque figure's the same, but it seems like the Tacoma might produce it at lower RPMs, or at least that's what you feel as the driver. It's not like this feels bad. This is still strong for a truck. I feel like I have to get higher up in the RPM range to really get a push out of the Ranger. So there is a difference there. Smooth ride though. It's weird, the Tacoma has coil suspension, which is supposed to be a superior suspension setup for ride quality, but the Ranger feels like it's just as comfortable, if not a little bit more comfortable in a way when it comes to the ride quality. So I think that's interesting. Yeah, it almost feels like this is just a little titch bit slower than the Tacoma. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. But yeah, just a slight touch slower. So yeah, to cap things off with the comparison, Tacoma versus Ranger, they're so similar. But here's what I'll say. I prefer the Tacoma's powertrain, but I prefer most of the rest of the truck when it comes to the Ranger. I mean, that's an SR5 is what you get for more money than this Ranger, and I would rather have this off-road and on-road in terms of how it drives. Yeah, the Ranger's just a better value. Toyota definitely, they went up pretty high with their pricing. But let me know if you would go Ranger or if you'd go with the new Tacoma when they're, with how these are equipped, basically the same price.